In Homer and Buffalo, they did it.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I love it.
Good morning. I would like to welcome everybody to the Board of Directors meeting for the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency. We're at the BWB Building, 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York. We're also streaming live via YouTube and Zoom. It's May the 27th at 10:30. We'll go ahead and do a roll call. Gary Henry's here. Dan Hetzenrader here. Megan Sheffield Smith
Here.
Tom Harmon
Here.
Amy Harding
Here.
John Healy Kevin Muldowney
Progress.
Ed Whitman.
Here.
Thank you. You should have already received the minutes from the April 22nd meeting and had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move.
Thank you, Sagan. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The minutes have been approved. I'd like to welcome the County Executive PJ Wendell here this morning. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, certainly, there's obviously the movement on a lot of things. First and foremost, the movement on the Silver Creek School. Can't say enough. That has been so much, that has been such a long and enduring project. Also, the closing of the TLC facility at Lakeshore Hospital, met with representatives from New York Medical. They're excited. We've been working again, it just as long, to procure the sale of that facility and really to focus on, behavioral health, substance abuse in the North County. But, again, it's every month. We just keep saying this. What is happening here is amazing. I believe we are, shifting the momentum of development here in Chautauqua County. I'd be remiss, as I'm told, it's the last meeting for one of our esteemed colleagues sitting right next to me. So, personally, I got to know Rich as my time as county executive. Prior to that, we knew each other, but really, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. People don't realize, just exactly what the IDA does. But it's interesting. Anytime we brought something to Mark, and it was, the Mark and Rich duo, and, Rich would rattle off, a dozen different funding sources and doing it. And just, it was always interesting listening to the finance, because I'm not a finance person. But just amazing institutional knowledge. And it's going to be different. Respectfully, Shelby's here, and I know you've taught her well, but it's just, I guess it's good to be here, when you say I was here back when, and great new leadership going forward, but it's also great to be part of the old guard, if you will. So, Rich, thank you so much for everything you've done for the county with our relationship. And, I wish you and your wife the best of retirements, and best is yet to come. Thank you.
Yep. Next, I think Mark's got a little bio and he'd like to introduce Ted to all the board members, so I'll get to know him a little better.
Yeah, so Ted Whitman was appointed by the legislature at their April voting session. And before I talk about Ted, I thought it'd be a good idea, and I don't know if we've ever really done this, go around the room and just introduce ourselves, what our position is with the IDA, and also where you currently work.
Okay.
Why don't we start with you, Sagan?
I'm Megan Sheffield Smith. I'm the treasurer for the IDA. I've been here, it'll be 2 years in the fall. And I'm the CFO for AA Vineyards.
Rich?
Skipper?
Former CEO.
Former CEO.
Hey, Friday, and that's my oldest daughter down there.
Your two daughters. They're twins.
Carol, I thought.
Yeah.
Something confusing, right?
Anyway.
Daryl, my other brother, Daryl.
PJ Wendell, County Executive.
Millen Tyler, partner at Phillips Lytle, outside counsel to the IDA.
Shelby Belsky, Rich 2.0.
Gary Henry, chairman for the IDA, and I also am financial chair.
I'm Mark Geis. I'm the CEO of the IDA and Deputy County Executive for Economic Development.
Jeanette Lovello, Office Manager for the CCIDA.
And I'm Amy Harding, Secretary of the IDA, and I work at Lakeshore Savings Bank.
Kayla Stramberg, I am the controller for the CCIDA.
Christine Morbido, we've met, and I am a project manager for the CCIDA.
John Daly, a board member here at the IDA, started in January, executive director of the Builder Standard Association.
I'm Kevin Muldowney. I own a business in the North County. They bounced me off here a couple of times.
It's like a bad penny.
From the back.
Nate Aldrich, Economic Development Coordinator with the Department of Planning and Development.
Good to see you.
Ms. Leahart, Administrative Financial Assistant for the IDA.
I'm Carol Rasmussen, formerly project manager with the IGA, retired. Carol Dixon. I'm Lisa Cole. I'm paralegal for Phillips Lytle outside counsel.
I'm Greg Peterson with Phillips Lytle, and probably the only guy in the team who remembers when we hired Rich Dixon.
Yeah.
Jason Sample, Marketing Communications Coordinator for the IDA.
I'm Tom Herman, legislator for District 6 on the IDE board, and I'm chair of planning and economic development.
Dan Heitzreiter, vice chair of the IDA board and Chamber of Commerce. Great.
And I am Ted Whiteman. I am business regional manager for Millwrights Local 1163 and the United Brotherhood of Carpenters.
Excellent. So real quick about Ted. Of course, he assumes also a board position on CRITIC, the Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation, and also the CRC, the Chautauqua County Capital Resource Corporation. Make that clear. We had, Gary and I had lunch with Ted a couple of months ago, I want to say, and we really liked him. We thought he was very personable. He was very tuned in to what's going on. He asked a bunch of questions about different projects, so he's paying attention. We thought, yep, this is the right guy. So Ted works for the North Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. He is also business representative of the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, Millwrights Local 1163, which includes 600 skilled members from across upstate New York. With his appointment, Ted returns labor union representation back to the IDA. Of course, we had Steve Thorpe for many years. Steve retired and then resigned his position. And it took us a little while, but of course, he's now, filling that seat. Steve was a representative of the Sheet Metal Workers Local number 112. So good to have you. And then what else? We have a lot of projects that often require skilled trade workers to undertake the work. And by having Ted on the board, it ensures that labor's voice is heard here when we make our decisions at the IDA. What else? Ted attended college at the Ohio State University.
Thank you.
And is a native of Plain City, Ohio, and currently lives in Sinclairville. And he's a member of the Nature Conservancy, and his hobbies include skiing, hunting, and fishing. So let's give him a round of applause. Want to say anything, Ted?
No, I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to working with everyone and moving the county forward.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As of 5 minutes ago, he's now a member of the Jamestown Tarp.
Want to say anything?
Yeah, real quick, and Ted, welcome aboard, but I forgot something, and it really, it goes to show what the IDA does. So another project that is nearing completion, and the reason I want to mention to it is the Hotel Lenhart. There's a long-standing tradition, and the Currys met. They own the building, but obviously not in anywhere particular. But Maple Grove's prom was always known for having pictures taken on the porch with the rocking chairs. And they met and opened up their facility, brought the rocking chairs out. They've been, talking to represent, people from the community. So again, I like to think the projects the IDA gets behind and the county, et cetera, but it's matching the right people. And this, again, I think it's a match made in heaven for the sustainability of the Hotel Lenhart. But it was amazing. The Currys just, were asked and so cordial. They opened it up, they brought the chairs out. Kids got their prime pictures taken at the Lenhart, which was a long-standing tradition from anybody that went to Maple Grove, I'm told. So I just wanted to give, again, kudos to us, but also really what a great job the Currys have done just coming out of the gates right now, making community feel welcome and going that extra step. So I just want to make sure we noted that.
And just real quick in response, Rose Stramberg, who's not here, one of her children got sick. She really has carried the ball on that. She's done a great job. So kudos to her and the Currys for sure.
Thank you. We'll move into new business A, Pomfret 3 PV LLC, presented by Christine and Millen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we are presenting deviation approval and approving resolutions for your approval with respect to the Pomfret 3 PV LLC project. I'll provide an overview first, and I think we'll get into the deviation hearing and other resolution review. As presented at our April board meeting, the due diligence resolution was passed. Pomfret 3 PV LLC is a project that involves new construction of a 1.4 megawatt AC solar farm on 11.9 acres leased from Charles W. Pierce Jr., located at 4825 Webster Road, Fredonia, New York, 14063 in the town of Pomfret. This is an estimated nearly $3 million project. At that meeting, we provided background regarding previous RIC Energy sponsored projects we have worked on in the towns of Hanover and Pomfret. John Rapp and Jeremy Kaufman, who are here with us today, provided a project presentation and answered questions. They're available to answer any project questions you may have later in the presentation. A cost benefit analysis was prepared and provided in materials. The cost benefit ratio for this project is 24:1. The town of Pomfret acted as lead agency for a coordinated SECRA review that was undertaken last November, and Millen will report on that further in just a few minutes. Public hearing notices were issued on May 2nd, and a legal notice was published in the Observer on May 3rd. The public hearing was held on May 19th at the Pomfret Town Hall. There were no comments received at the meeting or in writing. Deviation notices were also mailed to each taxing jurisdiction on May 2nd. As mentioned during our last presentation, we've had several conversations with Pomfret Supervisor Dan Pecos and a meeting with him on April 11th to discuss the pilot and requested incentives. Supervisor Pecos indicated his and the town's support and requested that CCIDA work with this company to provide the pilot schedule presented. The benefits that are requested from CCIDA to incentivize this project include a real property tax abatement. The savings is relatively minimal and estimated at $49,980 over the first 10 years before the savings transitions to a negative value totaling negative $13,915. We've had some conversations together about this model with the applicant, with this town supervisor, and I think Shelby would like to comment regarding the new state assessment model and some litigation that's ongoing.
Sure. So I don't know if you guys know the background of this, but the discounted cash flow projections for their real property tax is essentially utilizing depreciation on the current assets. So that would be assuming that they did no capital improvements over 25 years. So that's why it pretty much goes, well, it does go into the negative when we look at our projections and we utilize that model. Going past, I think it's year 11 is when it's relatively flat, and then it goes into the negative as far as the savings goes. But again, that's assuming that there wouldn't be any capital improvements that would kind of roll back into the model and adjust the assessment value. So again, they're just projections, and if that were to be reality, they could, step back away from the pilot at year 11.
One complicating factor is that the state tried to bring what they saw as certainty to the assessment for renewable energy. And they passed a statute that said you have to use this model and here's how you do it. And it's, as Shelby said, the discounted cash flow. How much money is this likely to bring in? That has been challenged on constitutionality basis as to whether or not the local assessor should be making those decisions or the state should. Right now, there's a stay in place. So it's very, very up in the air as to what the otherwise applicable taxes would be. One advantage of an IDA pilot is that we can set with specificity what the actual payments are going to be. So as Christine and Shelby pointed out, there is potentially a savings, maybe only for 10 years, but we don't know what the otherwise applicable taxes are going to be. The way your documents are set up is that if at any point the taxes are lower than what your pilot is, they can A, come back to you guys and ask for something, or worst case, they can say, heck with it, this IDA thing isn't worth it for me anymore, I'm leaving. So that's why it's overall a negative value of the pilot, even though it's positive for the first few years. And then because our pilot goes up by 2% per year, the discounted cash flow either stays the same or in theory could go down as the utility of the panels decreases. So that's why this is sort of unique. Usually we say that the pilot has a positive value. Here, technically, it's a negative value overall.
But as Millen mentioned, and thank you both, the 25-year pilot schedule is necessary for the corresponding project financing that's needed. So again, this is a 25-year pilot schedule, which is consistent with our other commercial solar pilots of similar size. Over the first 10 years, the pilot payments would total $61,318, and over 25 years would total $179,370. In addition to the real property tax abatement, sales tax abatement in the amount of $72,442 is requested, and a mortgage recorded tax abatement in the amount of $33,279 is requested. I know that was a lot of information, but again, you received a packet in advance. Are there any questions for John or Jeremy about the project before I ask Millen to hold the deviation hearing and review the resolutions?
Okay, this is the UTEP deviation hearing for this project. Notice was sent to all the affected tax jurisdictions on May 2nd. Christine has outlined what the pilot would be, $4,000 per megawatt for 25 years, increasing at 2% per year. Are there any representatives of any affected tax jurisdictions that would like to comment on the application? Hearing none, I close the deviation hearing.
Thank you.
You, and would you please review the resolution?
There are two resolutions. First is the deviation resolution approving the deviation that we just talked about. And the second is the approving resolution. As Christine mentioned, the town acted as lead agency for SECRA, and they noticed the IDA. Parenthetically, a lot of time the towns don't do so, in which case we need to make our own independent SECRA evaluation. Here they did. We did not object to them acting as lead agency, so we are bound by their secret determination, and they issued a negative declaration that there's no significant adverse effects on the environment. So those are the two resolutions. One, a deviation, approving the deviation from your UTEP, which for solar deals we do just about every single time, and the approving. As Christine mentioned, we've done the due diligence. We held the public hearing, we've looked at SECRA, we've worked out a pilot with them, and don't see any other legal issues that would bar us from closing. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none. Dan, would you move new business A1 for us?
Sure. Move resolution 5-27-25-01
approval resolution, Pomfret 3 PV LLC, and resolution 5-27-25-02, approving resolution, Pomfret 3 PV LLC. Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
John Healy.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Ed Whitman.
Aye.
The resolution is unanimously approved. Thank you for joining the call with us today, and we look forward to moving this ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next, we'll move into new business B, Ivory Acres Weddings LLC. And we wanted to make sure Rich got plenty of opportunity to last day. He's filling in for Rosie and he'll present this for us.
Rosie had to leave unexpectedly to take care of a sick child, so. So we have Ivory Acres. We currently have a loan with Ivory Acres. The balance is $14,042, which will be paid off with proceeds from the bank loan when this acquisition goes through. The borrower is Ivory Acres Weddings LLC. It's owned by Steve and Christy Bogart and Matt and Renee Barry. It's at 190 Ivory Acres in Bruceburg. The amount of this loan is $108,000. The loan committee met on 5/8 and approved this loan. So this is a premier event specializing in weddings, provides an exceptional experience for couples and their guests. They boast a unique and picturesque setting, offering a memorable background. The justification is currently the owners are selling Ivory Acres as they have moved on to other projects. Steve and Christy and Matt and Renee would like to purchase this, and they've asked for our assistance along with the bank. If we do not do this and assist us, the bank won't, and that will result in closing and the loss of a tourism destination business. They get a lot of people coming there from out of state and out of the county. So that's the justification for this loan. The bank is in for 135. We're in for 108. And the owners are putting in 30,000. And like I said, the 14,000 will be paid down. So we're only going to be out less than 100,000 in actual cash. And was unanimously approved by law.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? Just to clarify, they make a recommendation of approval by the board. The board approves it. So just a little bit different wording. So they recommended that we approve it, that the board approve it.
Thank you. Did we have any questions from the board?
I just say, I live just down the road and it's impressive throughout the wedding season, every weekend there's things there and it is a nice property. They keep it up well and everything. So it's good to see new owners coming in and keeping that going, especially for that area.
Yeah, great.
You should probably read the collateral. So we don't have a subordinate lien position, community bank on the mortgage, subordinate lien on all accounts receivable for fixtures, furniture, machinery, equipment, and inventory of the company, assignment of rents and leases, key man life insurance and the amount of the loan, unlimited personal guarantees of all of them. Sorry about that.
And this is a tourism destination. It attracts a significant number of people from outside the economic development area. Therefore, it meets the retail sales restriction.
Thank you. Sagan, would you move new business B1 for us?
Sure. Resolution 05-27-25-03 of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an LTEC loan, EDA CARES Act funds, or CRLF loan to Ivory Acres Weddings LLC.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
John Healy.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Ted Whitman.
Aye.
It is unanimously approved. Next, we have new business that's not listed on your itinerary. This is going to be C. It's going to be for the Gateway project, and again, presented by Rich.
I will start off and Mark and Millen will add some color commentary here. The board had previously approved a $325,000 brownfield loan to the Gateway Lofts project down on Water Street. And they had come back and asked for an additional $275,000. And this resolution will would approve that. Mark will talk about what's going on there, but I will just say that by doing this, this money that we're putting in actually gets leverage, because if we didn't help, if they don't borrow this money at a loan, they would have to use the tax credit money, and it's at a 70% discount. So this money is very valuable to them and will really help with this project. And more importantly, I think it helps get things done right away and keep the tenants that they have. So Mark, you know, if you and Millen want to talk a little bit more about it, please.
Yeah, if you recall, we were awarded $600,000 from the EPA to start a brownfield revolving loan fund. And they requested almost half of that a year ago. I can't remember the exact timing, maybe Nate knows, but we approved that. They have not spent that yet, but they came back to us and said, asked for the remainder up to 600,000. We were a little like, geez, that's going to wipe out our revolving loan fund. But as of last week, we were just approved for $1 million EPA money to replenish that RLF. So, yeah, $1 million. That's a lot of Nate in that for sure. So, we were a little queasy before, but now that we have another $1 million coming in, we're more apt to want to do this. And, this is an environmental project that has to do with a vapor barrier at the site. They have 5 or 6 existing tenants. I can't remember how many units, over 100 units of housing.
110, I believe.
How many?
110.
110. It's a $70 million project, all said and done. And they have a majority of their financing all in place. So we are recommending that we approve this, so they can get that project done, get that environmental portion of the project done. It paves the way for the rest of the project to happen.
And this loan will be for a total now 600,000 instead of 325. The loan will be a 5-year term at a 0.5% interest rate. And the loan will be interest only for 60 months, then a balloon payment of principal and tax credits come in after 5 years. So we're amending the first loan and adding to it. This loan will be secured by the corporate guarantee provided by Southern Tier Environments for Living. So that's everything, Millen, unless you wanted to add anything.
No, we're extending the term for both of them, the original amount approved and this one to be 60 months. Apologies that this came up sort of at the last minute. We literally had a conference call with them an hour ago where they sort of expressed that they really needed this to sort of prime the pump and get the project moving. Typically, we like to give it to you a week in advance, but this just came up this morning.
Nate, did you want to add anything?
The only thing I'll add is the DEC is really pushing them to do this.
Yep.
Regardless of the overall project. We're confident that the overall project, they're getting close on their, sources, uses, and this is a exact project that EPA wants us to do with these funds, so.
Any questions from the board?
Any timeline for completion of this project?
So the remediation work would hopefully start this summer and be completed prior to the end of the year with, subject to further financing of the overall project. They're hoping to close and start that early next year.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move new business C, approving this increase in the loan for the Gateway project from 325 to 600,000, following all the details that Rich has provided. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Tom Harmon.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
John Healy.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Ted Whitman.
Aye.
And the resolution is unanimously approved.
Hey, Gary, just as a note, in case somebody doesn't know where the facility is located, for gray hairs like me, it's the old Chautauqua Hardware Complex, which was a very active complex for a long period of time. And now St. Susan's Kitchen, among other things, it's being used. So it's a great rehab of a very wonderfully historic building.
Right across the river from our old offices.
Yep.
But most importantly, right across the river where I first knew Rich Dixon Hybrid Industry Council. That's where he was. So they're gonna rename the building. I don't know if they announced it yet. Yeah, I got ahead of myself.
I think you're a little bit ahead again, Greg.
Next, we'll move into our executive director's report.
Yeah, so I'll be quick here. PJ already talked about the Silver Creek School demo. That's great. I get periodic updates from Christine, who drives by it almost every day.
Every day.
And reports in, oh, I took another wall down, and yeah, so that's supposed to take a month. It's a big building and a lot of work, so that's good, really good to see. Nate, Shelby and myself attended the New York State Economic Development Council annual meeting this last week in Cooperstown at the Otesaga Hotel. It's a great opportunity for us to network, introduce Shelby to a lot of people. They had a lot of different sessions, and sort of the ones I gravitated towards were ones about energy. I mean, energy is a huge thing right now. I mean, with what the state's trying to do with renewables and, with, data centers coming in and, there's just it's a real crunch. So that was really interesting. And then also there was sessions on shovel-ready sites, preparing shovel-ready sites, went to a couple of those. Matt Fitzgerald spoke at one of them, and Dennis Elsenbeck spoke at one of them. They were together actually at the same camp. But anyway, and then they talked, I also went to one on data centers because, it's something we're, thinking about or contemplating for energy plant, because there's need for them. But it was really good, and glad we could go. I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything.
Do they have anything like on micro nuclear, like in any?
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, they touched on that. And they talked about natural gas as a bridge. The challenge is that the DEC is not giving out any gas permits for new. So something's got to change. That's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah.
But yes, they did talk about that. Yep. Did you want to add anything?
No, I think that you captured it. There were a lot of really helpful sessions for me. And a lot of new introductions. Don't ask me to tie. I don't know. I know who Mark is. But yeah, it was great.
The only thing I'd add to Mark is this opportunity not only to attend the sessions, but to learn what other IDAs are doing across the state. But more importantly, probably is networking and establishing relationships with state officials that attend as well. So.
A lot of ESD folks there, so we got to rub elbows with them like we do every year. Unfortunately, the weather was not good, so everything was inside. They usually have a lot going on outside, but it is.
It helped with rubbing elbows.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Very intimate.
Yes.
Last week also, Invest Buffalo Niagara had contacted me a month ago or so, and they said, hey, we'd really like to get a group of us down there to Chautauqua County, maybe do some plant tours, whatever, see what you can set up. So we arranged for a tour of Electrovia with Lee Gilmore, is the plant manager there. PJ was able to attend, Rich, and a bunch of staff also. I'm really excited about that project now. I got to be honest with you, sort of like, I've been doing this long enough. I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. I believe it now. I really believe it. They ordered all the equipment. They got all the engineering drawings. They walked us through and showed us what walls are going to be moved and all that stuff. And they're manufacturing batteries there right now, just not at a large scale. So I was really pleased with that. Then we went to Cummins Engine. We met with Ryan Dernar, who is the CFO at Jamestown plant. And they walked us through and did a tour of the facility, but also then showed us the new $500 million investment that they're making. It's like a city block of CNC machines. That's all I can tell you, and a big, they need a lot more power. So they put a new transformer in that's up high in the plant. So that was really good too. And then we had a little time between Cummins Engine and Wells Ferrero ice cream. I had enough time to stop at the White Inn. Quick tour through the White Inn, talk about Restore and all the, what we did there and how we helped, and, they were blown away by that. And then we went to Wells, and I think we were the first tour that they've had, because it's all under construction, and they would only allow 6 on the tour, and there was 5 IDN people, so we had the 5 IDN people, sorry. And so we met with Dave Fior and a number of others, and we toured that plant, and, keep your head down, there's a lot of cords and stuff, but that is unbelievable what that plant's gonna be. It's a lot of tubes, a lot of wires, a lot of tanks. That's, a lot going on there. So that was really great. And they were blown away. Investable Flint Niagara was like, wow, this is crazy. What's going on down here? So very, very impressed. So that was great. I talked about the EPA, $1 million for the revolving loan fund and $500,000 for the site assessments. So that's looking at particular buildings and doing site assessments, phase 1s, phase 2s, et cetera. So we get a better understanding about what some of the challenges will be for development. So good job, primarily Nate and Crystal and others, really good work. I can't read my own writing. Oh, yeah. I can decipher it now. We did through the, planning department, we requested, through the capital projects process that we do every year, we requested, another $350,000, for, preparing shovel-ready sites. It's a little more general than that, but we got it last year. We didn't get it 2 years ago, but as we know, creating shovel-ready sites, number 1, is very expensive. Number 2, it's not one and done. We got to always keep looking, and we're going beyond Mason and Ripley and looking at some other sites that we're really excited about. So we need to keep having that capital input. And then the land bank also requested $250,000 for commercial demos, which they got last year. I can't remember how much they got last year, but there's a particular demo that I won't talk about right now. That's high visibility that we're working on with the county, trying to get that building down. So again, we really need that funding as well to keep going on what we're doing. I can't think of anything else right now for my report. If anybody has any questions or curious about anything? No? All right.
Thank you. Shelby, did you have a treasurer's report for us?
I do. So you'll see on the printout of the statement of revenues and expenditures. To get there. So at our last meeting where we reviewed the financials through March, we spoke about how, we were in a deficit on the P&L. And that was really primarily because of timing, and we had all of those projects that closed in the beginning of the month. So you'll see that get caught up here for the April year to date. We're sitting at a positive 204,000. That's really all to call out on that report. So if you flip to page 2, you'll see we're in a comfortable position for cash right now. I did want to call out here that I think it's important to remember that when you look at the cash line, that we need to take into account the deferred revenue at the bottom and the liabilities, where some of those funds that are sitting up there are already spoken for. We just haven't expended them yet. So it is a little deceiving to think that we're sitting that heavy, but we're really not, because there's, projects in the pipeline that we have the dollars that are sitting in the account, but they're spoken for. So that really is the only thing to call out on the balance sheet. So then I'll skip to the third page, which is the comparison versus budget. And here the big ticket items really are the professional fees offset by the grant income. So this is primarily because of Ripley. So we recognized some expenses, about $370,000 in expenses that was then we recognize the income that offsets that. So those are really the big ticket items as far as the variance over budget goes. And we're pretty close. We're sitting at 80,000 as far as the variance over the budget for the bottom line. Another item that I do want to call out as well is the payroll and benefits. This is primarily driven by the allocation. So we're kind of honing in, we're getting a little bit more detailed as far as allocating all the salary and expenses. So a lot of this overage is kind of caught up on the credit side because we, again, are just kind of honing in those allocations. There is a little bit of a variance as far as the fringe rates go, but that was like 3%. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Awesome. And I don't believe we're having a critic meeting today, but we do have some of the financials for critic. Did we want to look at those quickly?
We can talk to those. Speak to those. So for critic on the balance sheet, the one glaring thing to notice, Ralph Wilson is negative in cash. That's just time received our second installment for the full year of 500,000 in May. So that'll get caught up. That's enough for that at the moment. Then on the flipping on the P&L, there is a couple of negatives. There are prior year adjustments that we just need to account for. They were done post audit, so but they're sitting on the current P&L right now. So stand out just a little bit, but everything else looks pretty good. We're doing pretty well as far as income and expense. And then the budget. Again, the only thing I will call out is the payroll and benefits. There's been, like Shelby had said, there's been adjustments to payroll allocation happening post what we budgeted for. And again, through critic and the IDA, we kind of balance all that out. So. I guess the professional fees. Yeah. So, yeah. Anybody has any questions?
Just real quick, so that bad debt reserve on the critic balance sheet, that is actually, we set aside bad debt, which means that we actually didn't use as much as we had set aside, right?
No, we've expensed that.
Expense that.
Expensed it. And if it doesn't happen, it'll come back to income. And those are for the loans from the OCR loans. Why they have a bad debt reserve for those we do, but that's what the accountants want. So those are for the OCR loans.
Okay, but at the end of the year, when we look at it and we did actually have that much bad debt, that would.
So it would,
At the end of when the loans are all paid off.
Okay.
and they run it at the loan level too. So if we had one that's paid off this year, that'll come off of that risk. It's essentially a risk on the balance sheet that offsets your receivables. So it's saying, instead of $10 million, you have 2 million set aside. So plan for 8 million.
Gotcha. All right.
It's the same for all the other loan funds too.
Yep.
Any questions from the board? Do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
You second, do we have a second? Thank you, Kevin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And approved.
Mr. Chairman. It's so like Mr. Reflections here, but since this is Rich's last meeting, this is the only time to blow him up with a glory gun. But in the revenue aspects of this, sometimes what's lost and not understood is the fact of how many of the IDA pilots have been structured on our payments be given to us installments over time, which is a relatively new process, but it's all been kind of administered by Rich and by the CEOs through the time from Bill Daley forward. And the fact that they've had the foresight to do that has in fact will bode extremely well for the finances of the IDA going forward. That hasn't always been the case, but I think it's good to reflect on certain decisions that were made at certain points between the CEO and the COO. And Rich was in the middle of all of that negotiations, so we're the beneficiaries of that today and in the future. That sometimes you don't see on a balance sheet.
Yep.
Thanks.
In fact, I remember Rich talking about sometimes he, in the past, way in the past, the bills that you just sort of had to stick in the desk.
Well, I had the checks in the desk. They call and I'd say, well, we printed the checks. They'll be in the mail soon.
So,
You had to print them.
yeah.
Well, it was interesting at the time when I started, the county was the predominant funding source, and that got slashed the first 6 years I was here. It just got really taken down to the level, and as we know, it hasn't gone up much, but we've found other revenue sources. And our fee used to be 1% of the project savings.
Yeah.
Not the project cost, so it's a 100% reduction. It was insane that there was no way to survive. So we we foiled all the other IDAs, got their policies, and we settled some in the middle. We're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, but it's been able to sustain us and able to do great things here, particularly under your leadership, Mark, you and Gary and PJ. We've done more in the last few years than the first 15 I was here. So I commend you three for your foresight and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thanks.
At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers. Do I hear such a motion? Kevin, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go into executive session.
Yeah.
We are back in open session, and I would like to report that there were no actions or votes taken during executive session, and therefore no minutes of the meeting were taken. I believe Mark does have some old business.
Yep, so here we go. I gave the,
I am old business, by the way.
I know, that's why we did it there.
Peterson.
Yeah. I'm as nervous right now as I was when I gave the eulogy at my dad's funeral. I'm gonna pull it together like I did then. Rich obviously has been not only important to the IDA in the county, but to all the staff. Mentor, somebody to bounce stuff off of, somebody to talk about the latest home projects. But he has done more for this county, I would say, in terms of economic development, maybe than anybody in the history of this county. And I mean that. Rich has always had a way of, relating with people. People trust him, keeps his head down. He's been able to avoid political stuff, boom, just doing his job. And, I speak for all the staff when I say, it's gonna be tough. He's orchestrated so many high impact deals. He's a deal maker. How can we make this work? Not, oh, we can't do that. No, it's always, how can we do this? We'll figure out a way to do this. So, he's taken this organization from one where he hid the checks in the door.
Just didn't mail.
Yeah, I didn't mail where he sat on the checks in his door. To one that's got, we have almost $25 million in an active loan fund. And, some of these big projects we've done, and that he's been right in the middle of saving SKF, right? Helping out Cummins, how many times? Wells, Southern Tier Brewing, Maple Vale Farms. and it's been rich behind the scenes. Um, He served on a lot of different regional boards and state organizations. New York Power Authorities, Economic Development, Power Allocation Board, Southern Tier Extension Railroad Authority. He's been really active in the New York State EDC over the years. He was a board member on Code, Citizens Opportunity for Development and Equality. Past president of the Chautauqua Leadership Network. The list goes on. A couple of years ago, he received, y'all remember this, right? The New York State Economic Development Council's Brian T. McMahon Lifetime Achievement Award. That's huge. So, his efforts are in economic development are unmatched, but I would say equally unmatched is his compassion and his friendship. He's really, through his leadership, his mentorship, his friendship, he's created a culture of excellence at the IDA. His friendly demeanor, his professional knowledge are going to be missed. Yeah, we'll survive, but it's going to be difficult. And he's agreed to be on a consulting basis. I think we call it one phone call away consulting agreement. I think that's what they call
An
it.
answer on the golf.
Yep.
course, I promise.
Yep. So
Or on a trip with my wife.
good answer. A couple last things, then others can talk, but he, before joining the IDA, he was Director of Finance for Chautauqua Works and the Private Industry Council of Chautauqua County. He was Director of Human Resources for Chautauqua Opportunities and the Chautauqua County Department of Social Services. And he was an Assistant Administrator Accounting Supervisor for Lutheran Social Services of upstate New York. He received his BS degree in Business Administration from Fredonia with a concentration in Financial Management and spreadsheets. No, just kidding. He also holds an Associate's in Business Administration from JCC, local, born, raised, and he just has tons of relationships with so many people in this area. So as you all know, we hired Shelby in September of 2024. And Rich has been a great mentor to her she knew everything he knows in 3 months. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, I'm kidding. But yeah, but it's such a well-deserved retirement, Rich. You can enjoy your 3 grandkids and your daughters, without any reservations.
Thank you, Mark.
Love you.
Too. Thank you.
Oh, Greg, you want to, well, wait, before you do. Got this, as Richard Dixon, CCIDA, retired with distinction after 19 years of dedicated service to the CCIDA. As you start the next chapter of your life, know that your professional expertise, mentorship, and especially your friendship will be sorely missed. A time to look back with admiration and a time to look forward with anticipation. Cheers to a well-deserved retirement.
Like my golf trophies that I bring home, this will stay upstairs for a while. Golf trophies end up in the basement after about 3 days. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Anybody, Greg, you want to say anything?
Really?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Kidding. Really, I haven't been around as long as I have, and the difference it's made to the idea, and on just a very, very serious note, is Rich has brought a degree of professionalism, a degree of humanism, and lost also is the fact that he's had a role as the HR person for the IDA. Now, those have not always been sunshine lollipop moments. And yet he has managed to steer through some interesting challenges, which HR brings to every place, anytime, but it's always kind of under the radar screen. He does it with professionalism, with a great degree of positivity. And I think we've all been the beneficiaries of. Sometimes you hear about it, sometimes you don't. I'm aware of it, but that's a piece of Rich which you're not aware of. Also, where else can you find a guy who's a professional bartender who knows everybody in Jamestown through usually on that basis, you know, and at the same time he likes to do spreadsheets. There's nobody. Literally one. And for that, he will not be replicated. Shelby, don't take up bartending school. Really, he brings a unique flavor to this, and you can't walk down the street as we have many times without him stopping or being stopped by people and knowing just about a little bit about everything. But I think Mark did a fantastic job of outlining some of the real attributes of Rich, and we could go on ad nauseum about him, and we won't, and we will not. But we should be justly proud in the history of the IDA, and is that we've had a Rich Dixon that has taken it to a different level on so many fronts. We talked a little bit about it earlier today about the installments. We've talked a little bit about the fact we got $25 million in loan funds. Trust me, we don't get that without the trust of those funding sources that we, the IDA, have delivered everything we've said we can do. We have, you know, the Nates of the world who has taken up the mantle that Rich started many years ago. And we have incredible talents today, but all of which 19 years ago, they weren't all here. And that first talent was really Rich Dixon. So for that, we're the beneficiaries.
I'd like to thank Rich, you know, personally, for all you've meant to me. You know, Rich has done some big projects. I mean, we talk about them. They're huge. They're phenomenal for our county, but he cares about the little guy, the manufacturers just as much. I remember when I first bought the company, you know, I knew how to make sawdust, but that's about all I knew how to do. And, you know, I wanted to build a building, and Rich and Carol, they're like, well, you need a pilot. Well, I thought a pilot was somebody who flew a plane. I didn't even know what they were talking about. And I worked with me through the process and was able to get another building built. And just through the years, every time I'd see him, he'd ask about the company, remembered everything, and then eventually comes down. Next thing you know, he wants me to be on the board. I'm like, the board of what? I don't know what you're talking about. And but you've taught me so much and given me so many opportunities that extend beyond not only my business and this board, but people I've met and opportunities that all are a result of, you know, knowing you and all that you've taught me. And I know there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of other people in this community that could say the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
But I'd like to add, Rich, thank you for everything you've done. What most people know is I speak to Rich just about every single day. If 9 o'clock comes and Rich hasn't called me, I wonder what's the problem. I'm thinking about calling Carol to make sure that Rich is okay. Because we speak just about every single day. And on every one of our deals, there's always things that get negotiated. So I've got to sort of clear them with Rich. You know, they want to waive this, they want to change that, they want to do this other thing. And what is unique about Rich, as opposed to a lot of other IDAs, is he always thinks about, well, what does this mean for my customer? You know, not just what's best for the IDA and what protects the IDA, but what does this really mean? And as a business person, he can sort of see both sides of every issue. And every single time that I ask him for a decision, it's always, you know, what's in the best interest of my client? And that's just a wonderful skill and makes it so much easier to get things done. Because Rich has a real world perspective and every one of his decisions is based on that.
And we have to bring him back, of course, from that. Like, all right. Protect us.
Thank you, Millen.
I'd just like to give just a first congratulations to Rich since I, like Greg, worked at the IDA as Rich walked through the doors. He came in with energy and pursuit and got right into economic development besides his financial skills, because you find out later he gets it. He gets the businessman, he gets the business financials, he gets what a business needs. Besides that, and all his awards and everything he's pushed through to enhance Chautauqua County. And in economic development field, he's mentored, as Mark said, every person that's walked through the since, including myself. And so thank you, Rich. You've been there all the time, not only on a business level, on an employment level, on a personal level. You've always used your humor and your generational one-liners. And you've always cared about your staff. So for me, it's been a privilege to work with you.
Thank you, Carol.
For all those years, many years. And you're appreciated. You'll be missed, I'm sure.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things I noticed when I walked into Rich's office is it's kind of like a quill. I didn't think he could ever clear the office out when he decided he was going to retire. What are you going to do? But I think what was most interesting is without ever sitting down and asking, you know, once in a while he'd share what each piece was, but it's a fabric, and it's really, you know, a history of economic development in our county. Personal gifts given to Rich by different people, by different businesses. And I think that's the one thing that's lost. You know, if you ever had a chance to see that, you would have really been in amazement of what he had in his office. And I think that's something that speaks a lot about a person. When you walk into somebody's office and there's nothing there, you wonder, really, what are you doing? But when you walked into Rich's office, there were these mementos and stories everywhere. And I think that says a lot about the person. So on behalf of, you know, myself and the county, thank you for everything you've done. And we are in a better place, without a doubt. And, you know, there's a mantle of you know, work for the rest of us. But, you know, again, I'm just, as a friend, that's how I see this. I don't see it as, you know, my mentorship over you, but more of what you've done for me. So congratulations, well deserved. Thanks. Enjoy yourself. Really.
I'm going to thank you. Lunchtime. Well, I'm just gonna be real brief, but I wanted to thank a couple people in particular. One is Greg Peters. For 19 years. If I didn't know, I'd call Greg. Greg, great knowledge, wisdom, and he is truly is a counselor. He is a counselor, and I owe a lot to you, Greg. Thank you. And my favorite story, though, is Millen. 18 years ago, we're doing the NRG deal. Greg and I are up at the North County, running from room to room with a laptop between the taxing jurisdictions and the company, trying to figure out how to divvy up 10 million bucks and all this. So we finally, I think we get a deal. I come up, I'm at LaShandro's, or I'm at home Thursday. I look at the paper. The mayor of Dunkirk at the time crucifying me and the IDA in the paper. So I go to bed. I'm a wreck. 5 a.m, I wake up. I've got a brainstorm. I pick up the phone. I call Millen. Well, I thought I was calling his cell phone. I'm calling his house. Now, he's out running at 5 a.m, as you know. He gets up and runs, but his wife answered. And to this day, I'm afraid of her. That's one of my favorite stories. But we did figure it out.
We did?
And everybody was happy on
My
it.
wife says she'll forgive you soon.
Too soon, too soon.
But we've done everything that I've done, I told the story many times. I was playing baseball day after I turned 16 and my father drove up in the car and I thought we were gonna go get my driver's license. Well, we went up and got my working permit at the high school and I ended up on Blackstone Avenue where Ricky Turner owned it. But I said, somewhere there. But everything I've done, it's those people that get up, work 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Make some amazing things in this county, just amazing things. People, I've been fortunate to go see all the amazing things that we make here and the people that do them. So thank you, everybody. It's been a great run. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
Well, Rich says it's time to, so do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Our next IDA board meeting will be June 24th at 10:30 a.m. We'll meet here again at the BWB Building and we'll be streaming live